The city was alive that night. Neon lights flickered across tall buildings, casting colorful shadows on the streets below. Hover cars zoomed overhead, their engines humming softly as they sliced through the air. On the ground level, people walked briskly, some carrying bags filled with groceries, others laughing with friends outside holographic billboards. It was a typical evening in Neo City, where technology ruled every aspect of life. In one corner of the bustling metropolis, a man named Rax leaned against his sleek hoverbike. He was tall and muscular, with tattoos covering his arms and a smirk always glued to his face. His leather jacket had patches stitched onto it, each one representing a dangerous stunt he pulled off or a rival gang he'd beaten. Rax wasn't just any biker. He was part of a notorious group called the Iron Wheels. These bikers were known for causing trouble wherever they went, leaving chaos in their wake. Tonight, however, Rax wasn't thinking about anything serious. He was bored. His gang had been laying low lately, avoiding attention from the police drones patrolling the skies. So instead of racing or fighting, Rax decided to take a ride around the city. He revved up his bike and sped off into the crowded streets, weaving between pedestrians and smaller vehicles. As he turned a corner, something caught his eye. Two strange-looking dogs were walking along the sidewalk. They weren't ordinary dogs. They moved with precision, almost like machines. One of them had metallic fur that shimmered under the streetlights, while the other had glowing blue eyes that scanned everything around them. Their tails wagged slowly, but there was something unsettling about the way they carried themselves. To Rax, they looked more like robots than real animals. Rax slowed down his bike and stopped near the dogs. He stared at them for a moment, amused by how odd they seemed. Then an idea popped into his head. Why not have some fun? After all, no one was watching, and these weird creatures couldn't possibly fight back. Right? With a laugh, Rax kicked out his leg, hitting the first dog hard enough to send it tumbling sideways. The second dog froze, its glowing eyes locking onto Rax instantly. But before it could react, Rax laughed again and gave it a quick kick too. Both dogs stumbled backward, making strange whirring noises as if they were malfunctioning. "Haha, stupid things," Rax shouted, leaning forward on his bike. "What kind of freaks made you?" The dogs didn't respond. Instead, they stood still for a few seconds, their mechanical bodies twitching slightly. Then, without warning, they turned and ran down the alleyway, disappearing into the darkness. Rax grinned to himself, feeling satisfied with his prank. "Yeah, that's what you get for looking so weird," he muttered under his breath. He didn't think twice about what he'd done. To him, it was just harmless fun, a way to pass the time until something better came along. But little did Rax know, those dogs weren't just random experiments wandering the streets. They belonged to someone very important, someone who wouldn't take kindly to anyone hurting them. Far away from the noisy streets, in a quiet apartment overlooking the city, Jason sat in front of a large screen. His apartment was simple yet modern, with clean white walls and furniture designed for efficiency. A table in the corner held tools and gadgets, evidence of his work as a bounty hunter. Jason was a man in his late 30s, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. His calm demeanor hid years of training and experience, making him one of the most respected and feared men in Neo City. Jason's two robotic dogs, Max and Luna, trotted into the room, their metallic paws clinking softly against the floor. Normally, they would greet Jason enthusiastically, wagging their tails and nudging his hand for attention. But tonight, they looked different. Their movements were stiff, and their usual cheerful energy was gone. "What's wrong with you two?" Jason asked, noticing their unusual behavior immediately. He knelt down and examined them closely. Max's side panel was dented, and Luna's glowing eyes flickered weakly. Whatever had happened to them, it wasn't good. Jason opened a small compartment on Max's neck and inserted a data cable into his wrist device. Within seconds, footage from the dog's memory scanners appeared on the screen. Jason watched silently as the scene unfolded. The neon-lit street, the speeding hoverbike, and finally, Rax kicking both dogs repeatedly. His jaw tightened as anger simmered inside him. No one touched his dogs, not unless they wanted to deal with him. Max and Luna weren't just pets. They were companions specially designed to assist Jason in his missions. They could sniff out danger, hack security systems, and even defend themselves in combat. Jason had spent months customizing them, ensuring they were perfect for their role. To him, they were more than machines. They were family. Now, thanks to some careless punk, they were damaged. And worse, the culprit didn't even seem to care. Jason replayed the footage, focusing on Rax's face. The smug grin, the confident posture, it all pointed to someone who thought he was untouchable. Jason recognized the jacket and the bike insignia. This guy was part of the Iron Wheels, a gang notorious for vandalism and illegal activities. If Jason hadn't already decided to find him, this detail sealed the deal. Standing up, Jason cracked his knuckles. He wasn't the type to act rashly, but this situation demanded action. First, he needed to repair Max and Luna. Then, he would track down the person responsible and teach him a lesson he wouldn't forget. Back on the streets, Rax continued his ride, oblivious to the storm brewing in Jason's mind. He joined his gang at their usual hangout spot, a dimly lit bar hidden beneath an old subway station. The place smelled of oil and smoke, and loud music blared from speakers mounted on the walls. Bikers lounged on worn-out couches, drinking and sharing stories of their latest escapades. When Rax walked in, his gang erupted into cheers. "Yo, Rax, where've you been?" one of them shouted. Rax grinned, proud of himself. "Just having some fun. You won't believe what I found tonight. 2 freaky robot dogs wandering around. I messed with them real good." His friends burst into laughter, slapping him on the back. "Nice one, man. Showed those metal mutts who's boss." Rax nodded, enjoying the praise. "Yeah, they didn't stand a chance against me." But as the night wore on, none of them realized the consequences of Rax's actions. In another part of the city, Jason was already planning his next move, and when Jason set his sights on someone, there was no escape. By morning, the entire dynamic of the city would change. What started as a harmless prank had now become personal. For Rax, it was just another reckless act. For Jason, it was a declaration of war. And in Neo City, wars were fought with skill, strategy, and cutting-edge technology. The next morning, Jason woke up early. His apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of machines running in the background. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow over his workspace. On the table lay Max and Luna, still recovering from their injuries. Jason had spent most of the night repairing them, carefully fixing dents and replacing damaged parts. Now, they rested quietly, their metallic bodies gleaming like new. Jason poured himself a cup of coffee and sat down at his desk. His mind raced with thoughts about the man who had hurt his dogs. He replayed the footage from Max's memory scanner again, studying every detail. Rax's face was clear this time. His smug grin, his leather jacket with the Iron Wheels insignia, and the hover bike he rode. Jason memorized it all. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice. No one got away with harming something that belonged to him. As he sipped his coffee, Jason began planning his next steps. First, he needed more information about Rax. Who was he? Where did he live? What else was he involved in? Jason knew exactly where to start. Neo City was a place filled with surveillance. Cameras were everywhere, in streets, buildings, even inside vehicles. Most people didn't think twice about them because they blended seamlessly into the environment. But Jason understood how to use them to his advantage. He pulled out a small device called a data slicer, which could tap into any camera feed within a 5-mile radius. With a few clicks, he accessed footage from the area where Rax had attacked his dogs. Jason zoomed in on the recordings, tracking Rax's movements after the incident. It didn't take long to find him. Rax had left the scene laughing, hopping back onto his hoverbike and speeding off toward an industrial district on the outskirts of the city. From there, the trail led to an underground garage hidden beneath an old warehouse. Jason recognized the location immediately. It was a known hideout for the Iron Wheels gang. "They're getting sloppy," Jason muttered to himself. Gangs like the Iron Wheels usually covered their tracks better. But Rax seemed too confident, too careless. That arrogance would be his downfall. With the location confirmed, Jason decided to gather more intel before making a move. He suited up in his signature combat gear, a black tactical suit reinforced with lightweight armor. Over his shoulder, he slung a backpack containing gadgets and tools designed for stealth missions. Finally, he activated Max and Luna, who sprang to life with renewed energy. "Let's go," Jason said firmly. "We've got work to do." Max and Luna wagged their mechanical tails and followed him out the door. Together, the trio headed toward the industrial district, blending into the shadows as they moved. Jason preferred working alone, but having Max and Luna by his side gave him an edge no one else could match. When they arrived at the warehouse, Jason surveyed the area carefully. The building looked abandoned from the outside, its windows boarded up and walls covered in graffiti. But Jason knew better than to trust appearances. He sent Max ahead to scout the perimeter while Luna stayed close to him, her sensors scanning for any signs of danger. Max returned quickly, relaying information through a wireless link to Jason's wrist device. Inside the warehouse, several members of the Iron Wheels were gathered around tables, drinking and playing cards. Their hoverbikes were parked nearby, each one customized with spikes and flames painted along the sides. Among them was Rax, sitting at the center of the group, boasting about his latest prank. "I kicked these two freaky robot dogs last night," Rax bragged, raising his glass. "They went flying like trash cans." His friends roared with laughter, clinking their glasses together. "Good job, man. Teach those things not to mess with bikers." Rax grinned proudly, leaning back in his chair. "Yeah, I bet whoever owns them is crying right now." Jason clenched his fists tightly, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. He wanted nothing more than to march inside and confront Rax then and there, but he forced himself to stay patient. Acting recklessly would only put him at a disadvantage. Instead, he focused on gathering evidence. Using a drone equipped with thermal imaging, Jason mapped out the layout of the warehouse. He discovered secret rooms behind false walls, some filled with stolen goods and illegal tech. Among the items were AI chips, tiny devices capable of controlling robots and drones. These chips were highly sought after in the black market, often used for hacking or sabotage. Jason realized that the Iron Wheels weren't just a bunch of reckless bikers. They were involved in serious criminal activities. "This explains a lot," Jason whispered to himself. "They're not just vandals, they're thieves." He recorded everything, saving the data onto a secure drive. If he could expose the Iron Wheels operations, he could shut them down permanently. And if Rax happened to get caught in the process, all the better. Later that evening, Jason returned to his apartment. He uploaded the evidence to his system, organizing it into files that could be easily shared with law enforcement. However, he wasn't ready to hand it over yet. First, he wanted to deal with Rax personally, not because he craved violence, but because he believed actions spoke louder than words. Rax needed to understand the consequences of his behavior, not just for hurting Max and Luna, but for endangering the entire city with his gang's illegal activities. Jason spent hours reviewing the footage, looking for patterns in Rax's routine. He noticed that Rax frequented a specific bar near the docks every Friday night. It was a rough place, filled with criminals and lowlifes. Perfect for someone like Rax, but also perfect for Jason to set a trap. On Friday night, Jason prepared for his mission. He dressed casually, wearing dark jeans and a hoodie to blend in with the crowd. Inside his jacket, he carried a small EMP device capable of disabling electronics temporarily. Max and Luna stayed behind this time, resting after their repairs. Jason didn't want to risk them getting hurt again. He arrived at the bar just as it started filling up with patrons. The air smelled of sweat and alcohol, and loud music pulsed through the speakers. Jason scanned the room, spotting Rax almost immediately. The biker sat at a corner table with his gang, laughing loudly and showing off his bike keys. Jason approached cautiously, pretending to be another customer. When he reached Rax's table, he leaned in slightly, catching the biker's attention. "You must be Rax," Jason said calmly, his voice steady despite the noise around them. Rax glanced up, squinting at Jason suspiciously. "Who's asking?" Jason smirked, letting his confidence show. "Just someone who heard about your little stunt with the dogs. Mind if I join you?" For a moment, Rax hesitated. Something about Jason's demeanor made him uneasy, but arrogance quickly took over, and he waved dismissively. "Sure, whatever. Sit down." Jason pulled up a chair, keeping his expression neutral. As he sat, he subtly placed the EMP device under the table. Then he struck up a conversation, asking questions about Rax's gang and their recent exploits. Rax, eager to boast, spilled details without realizing what he was doing. By the end of the night, Jason had everything he needed. With a quick press of a button, he activated the EMP device, causing all the electronic devices in the bar to shut down. Chaos erupted as people scrambled to figure out what had happened. In the confusion, Jason slipped away unnoticed, leaving Rax and his gang stranded. Back at his apartment, Jason reviewed the information he'd gathered. He now knew exactly where Rax lived, who his closest allies were, and what kind of weapons they used. Everything was falling into place. All that remained was the final step: confronting Rax face to face. Jason smiled faintly, his green eyes glinting with determination. "You messed with the wrong guy," he murmured to himself. "And now, it's time to pay." The stage was set. Jason had done his homework, and Rax had no idea what was coming. The game of cat and mouse was about to reach its climax. And when it did, Jason would make sure Rax regretted ever laying a hand on Max and Luna. The sun had set over Neo City, casting long shadows across its neon-lit streets. Jason stood on a rooftop overlooking the city, his eyes fixed on a massive underground arena known as the Pit. It was a place where criminals gathered to fight for money, power, and glory. Tonight, the Pit would host an event organized by the Iron Wheels gang, a brutal competition featuring hoverbike races and one-on-one combat matches. Rax, confident and cocky, was scheduled to compete in both events. Jason watched silently from above, his tactical suit blending into the darkness. He had spent days preparing for this moment. Everything he'd learned about Rax led him here, to the heart of danger, where justice would finally be served. But Jason wasn't reckless. He knew how to play the game. And tonight, he planned to use the chaos of the Pit to his advantage. Inside the arena, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Hundreds of people crowded around the fighting ring, shouting and cheering as fighters clashed in exoskeleton suits armed with plasma blades and shockwave gauntlets. Hoverbikes zoomed overhead, performing stunts that left spectators gasping. Among the crowd, members of the Iron Wheels strutted proudly, their leather jackets glowing under strobe lights. Rax stood near the edge of the ring, flexing his muscles and grinning at anyone who dared look at him. His friends patted him on the back, egging him on before his turn in the race. "Show them what you're made of," one of them shouted. "Don't worry," Rax replied smugly. "I'll crush everyone tonight." But Rax didn't know that someone else had arrived, someone who wasn't there to cheer him on. Jason entered the arena disguised as a gambler. He wore a hood pulled low over his face, hiding his features from prying eyes. In his hand, he carried a small device that allowed him to monitor activity within the venue. Max and Luna were outside, stationed nearby, ready to assist if needed. Jason's plan was simple: confront Rax directly and expose his crimes to the entire crowd. As Rax prepared for his hoverbike race, Jason moved closer to the track, observing every detail. When the race began, Rax took off like lightning, weaving through obstacles with ease. His bike roared loudly, leaving trails of smoke behind him. The crowd erupted into cheers, chanting his name. For a moment, even Jason had to admit, Rax was good, but skill alone wouldn't save him. When the race ended, Rax emerged victorious, raising his arms triumphantly. His gang rushed to congratulate him, slapping him on the back and handing him drinks. Jason saw his chance. Slowly, he approached Rax, keeping his voice calm and steady. "Congratulations," Jason said, stopping just a few feet away. "You're quite the showman." Rax turned, narrowing his eyes suspiciously. "Who are you?" "I'm nobody important," Jason replied, stepping closer. "Just someone who heard about your little stunt with those dogs. You remember them, don't you?" Recognition flashed across Rax's face, followed quickly by irritation. "Oh, those weird robot things. Yeah, I kicked them. What's it to you?" Jason's expression remained neutral, but inside, his anger burned brighter. "They belong to me," he said simply. "And now, I want answers." Rax laughed, glancing at his friends. "Are you serious? You came all the way here just because of some stupid dogs?" "They're not stupid," Jason shot back, his tone sharp. "And neither am I. Let's settle this once and for all. How about a duel? One-on-one. Right here, right now." A hush fell over the crowd. Duels in the pit were rare, reserved only for the most intense rivalries. Everyone turned to watch, eager to see what would happen next. "You're challenging me?" Rax asked incredulously. Then he smirked, cracking his knuckles. "Fine. If you want to get your ass handed to you, I'm happy to oblige." The fighting ring was cleared, and 2 exoskeleton suits were brought out. These suits were designed for maximum impact, equipped with weapons capable of disabling opponents without causing permanent harm. Jason chose a sleek black suit, while Rax opted for a bulky red one adorned with spikes. Both men stepped into the ring, facing each other, ready to lose. Rax taunted, gripping the controls of his suit. "We'll see," Jason replied coolly, adjusting his helmet. A buzzer sounded, signaling the start of the match. Rax charged forward immediately, swinging his plasma blade wildly. Jason sidestepped gracefully, avoiding the attack with ease. The crowd cheered as sparks flew, lighting up the arena. Rax swung again, this time aiming lower. Jason blocked the strike with his own blade, pushing back hard. Metal clanged against metal, echoing throughout the space. For a moment, the 2 fighters locked eyes, each trying to gauge the other's strength. "You're fast," Rax admitted, panting slightly. "But speed won't save you." Jason didn't respond. Instead, he feinted left, drawing Rax's attention, then delivered a powerful kick to the side of his suit. The force sent Rax stumbling backward, nearly losing his balance. "What the?" Rax growled, regaining his footing. He retaliated with a flurry of attacks, forcing Jason to dodge repeatedly. But Jason wasn't just reacting, he was calculating. Every move Rax made revealed weaknesses in his technique. Brute force might work in a bar fight, but in a controlled environment like this, strategy mattered more. As the fight dragged on, Rax grew frustrated. His movements became sloppy, his swings less precise. Jason, however, remained composed, conserving his energy while waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Finally, it came. Rax lunged forward, attempting to pin Jason against the wall. But Jason anticipated the move, ducking beneath Rax's arm and spinning around behind him. With a swift motion, he activated the EMP device hidden in his suit, disabling Rax's exoskeleton mid-attack. The red suit froze, leaving Rax trapped inside. "No," Rax shouted, pounding futilely against the immobilized suit. "What did you do?" Jason stepped back, removing his helmet to reveal his face. The crowd gasped, recognizing him instantly. Jason Statham, the legendary bounty hunter who had taken down countless criminals, was standing right in front of them. "This isn't just about the dogs," Jason announced, his voice carrying over the stunned silence. "Your gang has been smuggling stolen eye chips, endangering innocent lives. Tonight, that ends." He turned to the crowd, holding up a small tablet displaying evidence of the Iron Wheel's illegal activities. "These chips can control robots, drones, and even security systems. Imagine the chaos they could cause if they fell into the wrong hands. Thanks to Rax's arrogance, we've uncovered everything." The crowd murmured among themselves, shocked by the revelation. Members of the Iron Wheels exchanged nervous glances, realizing they were surrounded by witnesses. Some tried to slip away quietly, but security drones descended from above, blocking all exits. With Rax defeated and his gang exposed, Jason signaled for Max and Luna to enter the arena. The robotic dogs trotted in proudly, their metallic fur gleaming under the lights. They stopped beside Jason, wagging their tails mechanically. "You hurt them," Jason said, pointing at Rax. "Now everyone knows why you deserved this." Rax struggled helplessly in his frozen suit, glaring at Jason with pure hatred. But there was nothing he could do. He had lost, not just the fight, but everything. As the authorities arrived to arrest Rax and his gang, Jason walked away quietly, disappearing into the shadows. The crowd continued to cheer, celebrating the downfall of the Iron Wheels. But Jason didn't stay to bask in the glory. His job was done. Outside the arena, Max and Luna waited patiently. Jason knelt down, patting their heads affectionately. "Good work, you two," he said softly. "Let's go home." Together, they disappeared into the night, ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. The abandoned warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows reflecting the pale light of dawn. Jason stood outside, his breath visible in the cold morning air. This was it, the final confrontation. After exposing Rax and dismantling the Iron Wheels gang at the pit, Jason had tracked Rax to this desolate location. It wasn't just a hideout. It was a trap. Rax knew Jason was coming, and he prepared accordingly. Jason adjusted the straps on his exoskeleton suit, ensuring everything was secure. His suit was sleek and black, equipped with advanced weaponry, plasma blades, shockwave gauntlets, and EMP grenades. He carried no weapons openly. This fight would be personal, face to face. Beside him, Max and Luna stood alert, their glowing eyes scanning the area for danger. "Stay close," Jason whispered to the dogs. "And be ready." The robotic companions nodded almost imperceptibly, their metallic tails twitching with anticipation. Together, they moved toward the warehouse, stepping carefully over debris scattered across the ground. Inside, shadows danced across the walls as faint sunlight filtered through cracks in the ceiling. Jason's sharp green eyes scanned every corner, searching for movement. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the space. "So, you actually showed up." Rax sneered, emerging from behind a stack of crates. His once smug demeanor was now tinged with desperation. Gone was the confident biker who laughed off pranks. In his place stood a man backed into a corner, fighting for survival. "I always finish what I start," Jason replied calmly, his tone unwavering. "You hurt my dogs. You crossed me. Now, we settle this." Rax clenched his fists, glancing nervously at the makeshift traps around the warehouse. Barrels of oil lined the edges of the room, rigged to explode if triggered. Metal chains hung from the ceiling, swinging slightly as though waiting to ensnare an unsuspecting victim. Rax had turned the entire building into a battlefield, hoping to even the odds against Jason. "You think you're so tough, huh?" Rax spat, flexing his arms. "Let's see how long you last when the stakes are higher." Without warning, Rax lunged forward, swinging the heavy metal pipe he'd been hiding behind his back. Jason sidestepped effortlessly, letting the pipe crash harmlessly against the floor. Sparks flew as the impact shattered concrete beneath them. Rax growled in frustration, spinning around to strike again. But Jason was faster. With a quick motion, he activated the plasma blade attached to his wrist, deflecting Rax's blows with precision. Each clash sent shockwaves rippling through the air, echoing loudly in the empty warehouse. Max and Luna circled the perimeter, staying out of the way but ready to intervene if needed. As the fight intensified, Rax began using his surroundings to his advantage. He kicked over one of the barrels, sending oil spilling across the floor. Then, grabbing a lighter from his pocket, he tossed it toward the puddle. Flames erupted instantly, spreading rapidly along the trail of oil. Thick smoke filled the air, making visibility difficult. Jason shielded his face, backing away from the inferno. But instead of panicking, he smiled faintly. Clever, he admitted, but not clever enough. Reaching into his belt, Jason pulled out a small device, a smoke dispersal unit. With a flick of his thumb, he activated it, releasing a burst of compressed air that cleared the smoke within seconds. The flames continued to burn, but the path was visible again. Rax cursed under his breath, realizing his plan had failed. "You can't beat me with tricks," Jason said firmly. "This isn't about gadgets or gimmicks. It's about skill." In rage, Rax charged forward once more, abandoning strategy for sheer brute force. He swung wildly, aiming for Jason's head. But Jason ducked low, countering with a powerful uppercut enhanced by his exoskeleton suit. The blow sent Rax stumbling backward, crashing into a pile of crates. Splinters of wood flew everywhere as he hit the ground hard. For a moment, Rax lay still, gasping for breath. Blood trickled from a cut above his eyebrow, mixing with sweat dripping down his face. But he refused to give up. Pushing himself to his feet, he grabbed another weapon, a jagged piece of rebar torn from the wreckage. His eyes burned with determination, or perhaps desperation. "You don't know who you're messing with," Rax shouted, raising the rebar like a spear. "I'm untouchable." Jason shook his head slowly. "No one is untouchable." With that, Jason launched into action. Using the agility provided by his suit, he darted forward, dodging Rax's clumsy attacks. He struck quickly, targeting pressure points that left Rax staggering. Each punch and kick was calculated, designed to weaken without causing permanent harm. Yet Rax fought back fiercely, refusing to surrender despite the pain coursing through his body. The battle reached its climax near the center of the warehouse. Exhausted and bleeding, Rax stumbled onto a platform suspended high above the ground. Below, the flames still roared, illuminating the scene in an eerie orange glow. Jason followed cautiously, knowing one wrong move could send both of them plummeting into the fire below. "You messed with the wrong guy," Rax snarled, gripping the edge of the platform for support. "If I go down, you're coming with me." Before Jason could respond, Rax lunged forward, tackling him with all his remaining strength. The two men grappled furiously, teetering dangerously close to the edge. For a split second, it seemed neither would survive. Then, with a final surge of energy, Jason twisted free, shoving Rax backward. Rax screamed as he lost his footing, falling off the platform. But before he could plunge into the flames, Jason grabbed his arm, pulling him back onto solid ground. Breathing heavily, Jason pinned Rax down, pressing a knee against his chest. "It's over," Jason said quietly, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You've lost." Tears streamed down Rax's face, not from fear, but from shame. For the first time, he realized the weight of his actions. Hurting those dogs hadn't been harmless fun. It had set off a chain reaction that destroyed everything he cared about. His gang was gone, his reputation ruined, and now he faced the consequences alone. Outside the warehouse, police sirens wailed in the distance. Officers had arrived, alerted by Jason's earlier transmission of evidence against the Iron Wheels. Within minutes, they stormed the building, arresting Rax and confiscating any remaining illegal equipment. As the authorities led Rax away in handcuffs, Jason watched silently, his expression unreadable. He didn't feel triumph, only relief. Justice had been served, not through vengeance, but through accountability. Max and Luna trotted up beside him, nudging his hand gently. Jason knelt down, patting their heads affectionately. "Good job, you two," he murmured. "We did it." Together, they walked out of the warehouse, leaving behind the charred remains of Rax's world. The sun rose higher in the sky, casting golden rays across Neo City. It was a new day, full of possibilities and challenges yet unseen. Jason climbed onto his hoverbike, revving the engine softly. With Max and Luna following close behind, he sped off into the distance, ready to face whatever came next.